Hello to you all, and welcome to Pyramid Energy, a journey through intuition, wisdom, and loving insight. My name is Khunze. If you've journeyed with me before, welcome back, and thank you all for being here with me. I feel like nothing around you has actually changed in any substantial way, but that it all feels different now. You've shifted your perspective. Something has altered how you see things. And so what looked like something that was happening to you in your life through something external now appears as an opportunity. And what you're doing with this opportunity is that you're allowing it to show you how you can transform through, and this is all being kept to yourself. I very much feel this is something you're keeping close to your chest. This is something that you're not sharing with anyone. You're not voicing it. You're just allowing your inner world to explore the possibilities. And so you're beginning to envision your options, not attaching to any option, but allowing your mind to free up room for you to envision a different future for yourself, the various options. They're saying that you have the power to bring any of these options to life, but there's more to it. They're saying to not rush the process because you're in the stage where you're still needing to accept some of the things that are coming to an end, to really be able to accept that. And I'm seeing that the reason for this is because as you visualize possibilities, you may be at risk of tainting them, okay, through not having really accepted the current ending. So they almost want you to release this phase. I'm not saying wait forever to envision. I'm saying, yes, visualize, but don't force the thought process around visualization. A lot of these insights that you're going to receive are just going to land in your space. And so they're reminding you of presence, the power of presence, to be where you are now, to observe what's changing around you, which you already are doing, okay, and you're observing it with a different perspective, to observe all those things, and then to just be where you are, and in that time, in that space, in random moments, you're going to receive visualizations that you haven't forced. I'd like you to apply this as it resonates, because I feel like I'm speaking to people that are at different stages of their relationship with their intuition. Okay, you're all highly intuitive, perhaps on different points of the spectrum. And these points are based on how much you trust your intuition. And so for everyone I'm speaking to, wherever you are, in this process of needing to move into the unknown and to build your trust with your intuition, okay, when changes happen, we can tend to think about things as solutions, okay, rather than as pure wishes of where we want to be. I think that's the clarity I needed in terms of how you're visualizing, what is sparking the visualization. Because you're highly intuitive, you have the ability to receive highly sophisticated and rather particular visualizations of where you want to be. And so what I'm saying is that what you want to create. So what I'm saying is that your intuition has the ability to create for you what your limited human self may not be able to create, especially right now in a time of change. And so this is the clarity I'm coming to in terms of not tainting what you're creating through visualization, through the limitations of your current circumstance. And so this is why we don't want to force the visualization. We want to remain present, and we want to just receive these things. Should you want to open up, this invitation to allow even more of these visualizations in and this information in, right now I'd recommend that you focus on how you want to feel. At this stage, I feel like you might, depending on your mindset, you might actually still be in the space where you're really, through your thought process, thinking about how you don't want to feel. And so I'm not going to discourage you from being there. I feel like sometimes there's a time and a place for that. But be mindful of this backwards way of manifesting. It is where you find yourself right now, but we'd like to see you in a more positive mindset. And the reason I haven't just moved straight to positive is because you need to be present wherever you are. If that's your reality and you just need to acknowledge how you don't want to feel, then be there. But the goal is then to visualize how you do want to feel. And this is where we're going to create the mindset of which fears do you want to overcome? Which limitations do you want to overcome? Which parts of you need to feel more free? How much freedom do you want in your life? What kinds of circumstances are going to create this feeling of freedom for you? And that will help you to see where you need to be more mindful around the decisions that you take. Every day we're confronted with a series of decisions. Whether that's in your day-to-day decision-making in your work, or how you care for yourself, or how you respond to people about certain matters. These are all opportunities to engage with the version of yourself that you'd rather be. And so what's happening here is that this perspective wants to intercept every moment of your life. And so rather than, woe is me, that's how it came out. We want to acknowledge the woe is me, and then we want to move back into this position of empowerment where we realize that each encounter that we have, whether it's with ourselves or our environment, whatever you're working on, yourself or your work or whatever it is, how you're going to show up, how you're going to process what's taking place in that moment. And take your time. I find that, and as I'm picturing you encountering these things, I'm feeling you dealing with this immediate sense of overwhelm and needing to respond quickly. And here's something I learned along the way, is that the pressure to respond quickly is within us. It's not with the other person. There are so many things that I have learned how to do in a more efficient way and a richer way of responding to myself and to my world through giving myself back that time to respond. That means that if someone asks you something and you immediately feel this in your heart, you pick up on it. And so now this is an invitation to be mindful of that moment and that feeling. You are fully entitled to respond by saying, may I have a little bit of time to apply my mind to this or to sit with this. This gives you time to go back to where you are. Because to respond to someone, and I feel this very much as you being confronted with various situations where you have to respond, and these build up your anxiety, and they have you in a certain way that we need to work with. And so I see you needing to be reminded that in that moment of needing to respond, to be mindful of not responding to the other person's presence, but giving yourself your presence back and allowing yourself to respond to your own presence. This is a way that our world can sometimes force us or push us to respond in a way that aligns with their needs. And this is very much a time in your life of you being mindful and responsive to your needs. They're saying that every single moment where you are confronted with this feeling of alienation from your needs and alienation from your preferences is an opportunity to go back into yourself and observe in that moment what might be being taken away from you. What is this moment, not the person, but what is this moment threatening within yourself? Which needs of yours are not being met in that moment? And that's why I say this is a lot to process in that moment of confrontation, or, that is confrontation. I'm not saying it's an argument or a fight. It's just a moment where you're confronted with needing to answer someone immediately. That urgency is not real. You're allowed to sit with it. And to note that if the person that you are interacting with is not willing to give you the time to sit with it, that is a very indirect or unconscious manner of letting you know that they want you to just do what they have asked you to do, and they don't want to consider how you feel. And so to take note of those moments, because I feel like you are confronted with them more often than you're aware of currently. And so we're bringing you into this point of awareness so that you can pick up on these things and connect more with yourself, connect more with your needs, and understand which areas of your life are going to transform into empowering areas of your life. And this is rather to look at this as an empowered way of being, rather than this disempowerment that you've been walking with. And I'm acknowledging this disempowerment that you've been walking with because I see someone who has this shield, this cover that appears empowered. However, the reality of how you're responding in your various moments in your life are telling me that this is part of the reason you feel trapped in your life. And they're showing me this to soften how you perceive your circumstances. By soften, I mean there are rules of engagement that are unwritten that you seem to have embedded in your lifestyle, your way of living, your way of being, your way of showing up. Okay? These are due to conditioning. When I say they're not real, I mean that they are projected expectations that your world projects onto you. Okay, your world projects these onto you to keep your world the way it is because it's comfortable for your world to continue to experience you the way it is used to experiencing you. And so to soften these structures of how you've been running and how you've been operating is to make you realize that it's not a boundary. That expectation that person or that thing appears to have placed is their projection. And so it's not a real rule. It's not a real rule. And so now we're softening it, we're splitting it, and we're helping you to see that it's a way for them to remain comfortable with you remaining the way you are, a way for them to have their needs met by you giving up your own needs, and a way for you to be able to see this in present time when it's taking place. So what we're doing is actually slowing down time for you to see how much of it you have. Because that minimization of time that's being projected onto you is not allowing you to make the changes that you want to make in the small ways that matter. 1555. They're saying that this is going to show you a lot of change in your world. I see you shifting on your own, in your own personal, private space. But I see you feeling challenged when you have to walk back into your world and deal with the state of your world. And so they're saying that to shift your world, this is what you can start by shifting within yourself. How you show up in the present moment and to take back your time. So the pressure that's being imposed is perceived. And when you release that pressure, you're able to see much more about that moment than you would have been aware of had you just responded in the moment, under pressure and against your will. And they're saying that the reason that you feel so disempowered in these moments is because when you take a step back, whether this is conscious or not, there's no sense of accountability around why you gave that response when you did, why you gave that response, and why you did it when you did it. And so now you're becoming accountable by taking back the time, taking back the opportunity to sit with it and make a decision. They're saying, use your discernment to decipher, how urgent certain answers are. You already have that sense of discernment. But they're saying that this is going to be so empowering for you to realize how differently you make decisions when you take your time, and how much more respect you build for yourself by approaching decision making this way and approaching confrontations this way. Sometimes when you're in a confrontation, you don't even realize it's a confrontation because of the speed and because of the apparent calmness of the question. But how you know whether you're being confronted about something, and again, this is not really about the other person, it's about how it makes you feel. It becomes a confrontation when you are being confronted with a question or needing to give a response or an answer. So it's not confrontation in the sense of a fight, but it's these little moments where we're constantly and repetitively saying no to ourselves without realizing it. These little moments progressively create a state of being and a way of being and a way of life that is not satisfying for us. And so they're saying that each of these mini opportunities need to be looked at differently. And it doesn't really matter what it is. They're just saying use your discernment in terms of urgency, which you're already doing it. I just don't want to make it sound like in the middle of an emergency, you're going to say, can I sit with this? Looking at it in a different way, this is also going to empower you in terms of not missing opportunities to show up for things that you would have liked to do, things that you would like to participate in, things you would like to try. Again, because, and I'm sensing so much your nervous system feeling so tied up in some of these moments that you sometimes miss something that you do want to do. I just want to say at this point that I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a healthcare professional. And so please listen with discernment and seek advice where it's appropriate. I'm saying this because I'm talking about nervous systems and all of that. I'm saying that your nervous system is used to this state of fear and pressure, even when it doesn't need to be responding to you like that and responding to the moment that way. And so this is going to align your decision making so much more, and you're going to see some profound change by looking at things this way, and very quickly. Through a lot of the things that I've said in this container, I'm sensing someone who exists and lives in a fast-paced environment. And you may not have been aware about its effect on your nervous system, your temperament outside of those spaces, and your general feeling about yourself. Especially because of this cloak I spoke about, this cover that you have. And so what we're working on is changing you internally within your environment. Because as much as there are things that you're envisioning walking away from and all of that, we still need to be mindful that we don't only live in our inner world. And I do believe that there's a lot of healing information out there that I want to say pushes, but I don't mean it like in a very negative way, but essentially encourages this habit or this way of life of spirituality, where you're living within your spirit and within your body without regard, even if it's just a temporary sort of survival mechanism, without regard for what's happening outside of you. And I'm sensing someone who lives in a fast-paced environment. And this is different from how I live, because I have changed my lifestyle. But I'm sensing that pressure. I see you confronted with people constantly. As you're trying to shift your way of inner being, I'm seeing you confronted by situations constantly where your nervous system and your decision making and your view of yourself are being compromised. And we're wanting to change how you feel about your life in the present without bypassing your current experience. They're saying this is how you can change your world. And I have a lot of information coming through now, so I'm going to try and slow down. But what they're saying is that your outer world will have no trace as to when some of these changes happened. So to them, they are just going to need to adjust to your new sense of almost self-respect, because those moments are going to make it more obvious to you and to them that they are not giving you the space that you're entitled to respond. Okay, so we're very much talking about dealing with our world and dealing with people. And then the next thing they said is that you are going to develop a much more intentional way of life, without actually looking at this as a bigger picture thing. This is what's going to change through this way of being and through this way of responding in the moment. And they're saying that you are going to connect so much more with how your intuition can work for you in your current world, in your current environment, your physical environment, your relationships, whatever space you find yourself in, however fast it moves. Because there's another there's another misconception about healing, being that you need to remove yourself from where you are in order to transform. And while this might be the path for certain people, this may not be your path. And so you don't need to worry that engaging on a journey of healing, and they were mindful not to call it a spiritual journey here. It's like I received this instruction that we're calling it a journey of healing, that it does not have to manifest in the type of destruction that is often perceived. I feel like I'm speaking to someone who is so intuitive, okay, but doesn't really know how to develop their intuition and implement it into their lives in a fast-paced environment. And so there's been this tension around what you'd call a spiritual journey and your current life. And so I'm hoping that with this, we've actually bridged that gap of how to transform your feeling and existence within your current world and to transform your world gently. And I'm not saying without disruption. I'm just saying gently. They're saying that you are walking away from a way of life where all you do is wait for life to start. There are a few lines that I want to read you from this card that I've pulled from the Heart Path Oracle deck. The card says, hang on, wake up your tenacity and determination. And this first piece I want to read says, you are an extremely creative human being. Whatever path you take, you bring to it an intriguing point of view. The observant fox guides you around obstacles that you otherwise may not notice. It shows you how to adapt quickly to different situations in which you find yourself. Approach these new adventures with excitement and open-mindedness. The number 1 presents itself many times in your image. 1 fox, 1 dog, and 1 kangaroo. This number brings with it the energy of assertiveness and independence, as well as enthusiasm, new beginnings, and prosperity. It is a sign that the gate of opportunity is open. The thoughts you are thinking are manifesting at record speed. Be aware and don't wait too long. Seize new opportunities that come along. It also says, although you think of yourself as more of a practical person, you are also a visionary. You are here to change things, to help shift the planet. Whatever you decide to do, you will be a leader and an innovator. Make sure, though, it is for the greatest good for all. Always check in with your heart and not just your head, especially when dealing with relationships. Your German Shepherd dog will lead you to hidden talents that have always been part of your life, but which you have not acknowledged. These might have something to do with communication and community. Jupiter hovers above you, bringing justice, balance, and perfect order. To the left of the fox is a kangaroo. Since the kangaroo is always moving, it symbolizes your need to work hard to get where you are going. Don't stand in place. Take action and pursue your dreams. Once you achieve momentum, keep going forward and never look back. The bigger the leaps, the better. With worms in your life, there will be some type of miraculous regeneration. Know that you will have a breakthrough soon. Keep going. You are tough. The goldfinches remind you to enjoy life and savor each moment. They want you to celebrate who you are and all of your accomplishments. The tree gives you power, courage, and grounding. Like the tree, you have deep roots and a stable foundation. You have chosen an interesting journey. Let yourself grow and expand into unknown space and reach for that special star. I think one of the things that has occurred to me most during this reading is how I used to perceive this healing journey. Before I embarked on my own, even during the beginning of my own, and only now, really, on the other side of it, do I realize that a lot of how we perceive what we call a spiritual journey is actually rather harsh. Because there's this perception that isolation is guaranteed, destruction is guaranteed, alienation from your current world is guaranteed. Whereas with a lot of the tools that I've developed and that I've learned through my own journey, I'm realizing that there are gentler ways of applying this kind of mindfulness into one's everyday life that really can result in tremendous transformation. And so I think what I'm trying to say here is, I honor you for having the courage to explore ways of healing within your current situation. Even though this term spirituality is used so frequently and thrown around so loosely, it's interesting that we view it as though it's selected for certain people, when actually we all have spirit. We all have spirit. We just don't have the tools of how to connect with our spirit in a way that's empowering, especially with so many healing modalities out there and so many I suppose spiritual practices, even some of the more traditional things like religion, let's say, and irrespective of what your system of understanding your belief or understanding life is, whatever that system is, essentially what we've been talking about here today is your awareness, and your awareness being the thing that bridges the gap between your current existence and your spirit, and all of the knowledge that your spirit wants to share with you, and the way of life that your spirit wants to share with you. And so I honor you for admitting, at least to yourself, that there are things that you fear, and accepting that to the point where you're open to information. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me, for sharing the information that has come into my channel for me to share with everyone. It's a testament to our collective and connected experience in a world where we can often feel so alone. I also want to express gratitude to each and every one of you that supports my channel and that has supported my channel. The gratitude that I have for your generosity is difficult to put into words. 333666. These numbers are affirming to me that I too started off with a vision, without a plan, and just followed the light. And your generosity is such a deep and profound confirmation of my own journey. So thank you. Should you wish to support my channel and can, I've left details in the description box below on how. Sending you all so much love.